There are no unsolvable problems, only the lack of presence by a free, unconditioned, and non-defensive consciousness. Hi, my name is Anya, and I'm the author of this book on consciousness and reality. Welcome to the very first video in the series where we're going to be unpacking really important concepts that are crucial to understand if you want to master creating your reality, helping yourself and helping others. Now, I would like to say that I believe that we create reality all the time. And no lessons in this are necessary. This is just our divine gift and divine nature. But when we are trying to untangle complicated issues we've created in our personal lives, trying to interrupt patterns that continue repeating for us, or we try to untangle complicated issues that we've created out there in the world, it is helpful to understand these concepts. I write about most of them in depth in the book, but I will be unpacking each one of them here. Why is it that I chose this idea that there are no unsolvable problems? To introduce you to the idea of identity, because I thought, why would somebody even want to listen to a video like this? Why would somebody read a self-help book? It's because we all want something. We want something to be solved, we want something to go away, or we want something to be added to our experience, and we're all trying to figure out how to make life happen in the way that we envision it. The way that I've seen it, often people have a problem or a few problems that continue repeating in their life, or maybe they are obsessed with solving a problem that is more global, that no one in their environment has yet found a solution to, but they can do it. Something is not allowing them to go outside of the current limitations of their thinking and see something new. This is where I think it's really important to talk about this very important idea of formless and form, 1 and 2, that basically penetrates all of the understanding that I teach. And that is when our consciousness, which belongs to everything, to one, there's a spiritual solution to every problem, meaning there's something in us that is connected to the force behind life, to the field of all possibilities. That is also our true nature. When that consciousness meets anything in this created world, it shouldn't have any problem with it. However, when our consciousness meets a problem out in the world that it gets triggered by, that it wants to run away from, it means that something is a bit off. And what I saw is the consciousness that has lost its independence, meaning it feels dependent on the problem being solved. It feels threatened by the problem. If I don't solve my money issue, if I don't marry the love of my life, if I don't solve this crisis in this nation, something bad is going to happen to me. A thinker, instead of tapping into that field of all possibilities, goes into the survival mode because of the presence of a certain thought reality that we do not realize that we carry, called identity. And I think this is a really good way of introducing you to this idea. To understand what identity is, you kind of have to understand the idea of oneness and duality, meaning that you, who you are, is not a created form. You are part of the creative force that took form in order for you to, play and be here and participate in this human experience. Taking this perspective into account, so much easier to come at life. Even in recovery, people say, there's force greater than myself. Something that puts a human being outside of the constraints of their thinking mind is always a good thing because it taps us into something unlimited that invites new energy in, invites new insight in. There's 2 ways that I would like to speak about identity. I want you to imagine a funnel with a big open end at the back, and it gets narrower in the front. That is how I imagine a healthy state of human consciousness that decided to take form, that gave itself definition in order for you to be separate and play in the world of form. But the back end is always open to the awareness of who you truly are. Everything works really well when you come at life from this perspective, when you have one end completely open to absolute creativity and one end experiencing life that is limited in this one point of focus. What I've seen happening as a result of us collectively sharing consciousness and unconsciousness with this world, being born into families that are scared, that are upset, that are disconnected from themselves, observing the unconsciousness in the world, the back of the funnel gets closed. And it gets closed by this iron curtain made of thoughts that we mistake for the reality of who we are. I am separate from you. I am limited. I am this and I am that. And so suddenly, from just a defining thing, this idea of self becomes form. It becomes a separate thing. And then when the form, which previously was formless, right? When the form meets another form in the world, all of our attempts to solve problems and play in the world of form become a game of rock, paper, scissors, right? Who has a stronger, bigger, more overpowering form, as opposed to bringing consciousness that isn't a form, where all form comes from to meet form. Usually the problems that we are obsessed with solving, the patterns that continue repeating, the love that is absent, the scarcity that continues playing itself out, are in our reality because they are connected to our consciousness in some way. So already, from the get-go, we're not independent from the problem that we really, really need solved. In fact, the reason it looks so dire, there's such sense of urgency to solve this problem, is because we are experiencing ourselves as a form that is dependent on the problem being solved in order for us to be okay. Identity, the consciousness says, okay, fine, I did put on this armor to defend myself, but for good reasons. I remember this thing that scared me. I remember that thing that hurt me. I remember that scarcity. I remember lack of love. And this is never going to happen to me again, because the Iron Curtain isn't just a punishment. It's a defense mechanism. Right? It is something that we create in order to be able to navigate the world of everybody else who has forgotten who they are. Usually layers of identity get shaped and added on to the pile when we're very little. And when our sense of agency isn't quite developed, we're still depending on other people for nourishment, for shelter, for all kinds of other things. When we've decided who we are, based on defending ourselves and doing the best we can living in a broken world, and then we meet a piece of that broken world, we say, oh, this has to go. This was the reason I got hurt. This is the reason I cannot achieve my purpose. This is the reason we as human beings, if you're looking at a global issue, we're not going to be able to survive as species. What happens is, instead of being completely open and creative, starts operating from a place that is defensive, that is in survival mode, and using only the thoughts, only the ideas, only the puzzle pieces that are available to it that stayed in the room when the Iron Curtain got closed. No new insight, no new puzzle piece, no new perspective is allowed because it is considered to be dangerous. It's considered to be challenging the reality of self the way the self imagines itself to be. So if we have identified ourselves with something that the problem we're trying to solve can threaten, the thinking that is available to us is not going to be creative. It's going to be survival. It's going to be only in reaction to the problem, therefore reinforcing the same old structure, the same old paradigm that created that problem in the first place. But you could say, Anya, how can I not be identified with something that is threatened by this problem? What if the problem is cancer? What if the problem is a virus that is threatening my body? I am in my body. I can't escape it. And here's an interesting thing. Look around your room. Look at a lamp, for example. Now imagine that lamp in your mind. Now imagine that you are the lamp. Open your eyes. The image of the lamp in your mind is not the lamp, first of all. The thoughts that you think about the lamp, even if you imagine yourself in a lamp costume, are not you. Just because you experience yourself in the human body, for example, the inner shape of your consciousness does not have to identify with the form this consciousness occupies. Even though you're in your body, your consciousness is not the body. Even though you are dealing with money, your consciousness is not anything that could be threatened, defined, value added by money. So there is a difference between the form or forms that we experience in this life and the state of our consciousness. Our consciousness is insanely creative. It has amazing creative potential. It gives birth to forms, the finest of which is thought, and creates these inner realities that later manifest as outer realities. But it also has the ability to create thoughts about the self, to lock itself into Polaroid pictures of what it experiences and it witnesses. If my thinking is in the shape of my body, or my thinking is literally encased in my national identity, or the identity of my gender, or the identity of the trauma that I have experienced, or the identity made up of thoughts that I am powerless against some other power in the world, or maybe it's just an identity of a separate human being. I am other than you. And that is how I experience myself. In this form, when meeting a problem I'm trying to solve, is not going to get anywhere. And our job is to open that funnel back up. Because when a free, undisturbed, non-defensive consciousness allows anything that exists in the world, anything that that consciousness, personally or collectively, has created, it allows this problem in the room. And it isn't afraid to sit with this problem and look at it for long enough, the answers are going to arrive. Even if the problem is really threatening to my body, my consciousness is not my body. It is able to embrace the disease, the possibility of death, all of the elements that are involved, and it is able to look at it from a place that isn't fighting for its survival. Because that place, the back end, right, is open to the universe. It's open to the true nature of God, which is you. I'm saying that there are no unsolvable problems, only the presence of a certain kind of inner reality that replaces the formless in us with a limited, finite, and scared form that isn't able to meet life where life is meeting you, and is only able to react because that's the best thing it knows how to do, reinforcing the existence of the problem, making things worse, or at best trying to control the world, unable to untangle the knot for several reasons. And we're going to be talking about those reasons in the following videos. And one of those reasons is that it has an investment in the problem existing, because the problem in some way is connected to the nature of the shape and form, the identity that we've assumed. But we'll cover that. For now, when you meet a problem in your life and you get scared, anxious, and triggered, I know it's unpleasant, but celebrate the fact that you've seen it, you've recognized it, that it is a sign that this is reality, yes, but there is another perspective and reality available. All we have to do is just recognize that the part in us, the made-up sense of self, is terrified of the problem because of certain assumptions we hold about who we are. And those assumptions might have been true at some point, not universally true as applied to our true nature, to who we really are. If you guys are interested, I have a completely free guided audio inquiry that guides you through the process of identity work. Identity work is something that I describe in my book, and it's an inquiry method that I've created to get to those core beliefs that keep that iron curtain shut and closed. I will link it in the description of this video, as well as I will put a link to this book if you're interested. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Like, subscribe, and share this video with whoever you think might benefit. Appreciate you. I'm sending you love, and I'm so excited that you're in the world, because the more people lean into the idea that nothing is impossible, the faster we're going to create the world that works for everyone.